making stuff happen because we are live.
That's really
Well, greetings, world, and greetings, Seven Spot Jim, broadcasting to you live from the heart of Richmond, British Columbia, with myself, with my good mate Steve Dunbar. And Steve, why don't you stand over next to our featured guest and turn the camera slightly? There we go. We have Mike Machin, and I'm going to flip my camera around because I want to show you something about what we're here for. So hang on just a sec, and you guys can probably see what's going on there. Now, Mike, you're standing next to Steve. Why don't you, as I walk around here, why don't you tell us what's happening here? What type of a car is it you're building? And when did it get started? And who? Tell us the whole story.
okay. So let's go back to the start, which was the end of last summer. So I bought a book by Gibbs,
Chris Gibbs.
Chris Gibbs, which how to build your own sports car.
Yeah.
I read it, and then a fellow I know very well who's built one, Ed Leach. I talked to him, and so what I ended up doing is I actually bought a 1990 Mazda MX-5 that was running, convertible. It had been dinged. It was a salvage job. I bought that. I brought it home, and then I started, based on this book, I started building my frame. So I built a huge jig that was 8 feet long, and I didn't listen to Ed the first time because in reality I should have built it 11 or 12 feet long, because once you get the main frame built, you want 3 feet to be able to play with the back end. And then again, what Ed said to me was, why don't you just take the whole subframe out of the Miata and bolt that and weld that into the back end of your Lotus car? So that's what I did. So if you're looking at it, Jim's back there, so that whole subframe just lifted it up underneath, and I welded my steel and everything to accommodate it, and it worked like a hot damn. And so now I came forward. My frame is pretty well 95% welded up, but I didn't want to start going too far down the road, having an experience of restoring and building other cars. So I cut the cross member piece out as required, and I lifted the motor and transmission in, and I've been mocking the whole car up. I put the motor in, trannies in, drive shaft, all of that. And then you can see I got the steering column, so I'm just laying everything where it's supposed to be, because I don't want to get in and find out I get it just about 95 seconds complete, and I made a big mistake and I got to cut things out of there. So that's kind of the stage that I'm at right now. I've got the motor and transmission up on wooden blocks, and I've centered it on my frame bearing. So now I've got to build engine mounts, tranny mount, cut my drive shaft to length, and then I've got to build, because the Mazda 94 is a rubber floating differential, I've got to come up with a modification, an amount that'll hold it at the right angle, but I don't really need it bouncing around back there. So I got to play with that. I'm in the process right now of building all of my power lines and everything. So just my work also, a great thing is when my friends come in, there is a document out there that a fellow had created that shows what control lines and how to build them when you're actually adapting them to the Mazda front end using the Mazda spindles. I had to order the parts out of supercars out of England for the upper control ball joints, because of course the Mazda is a press fitting into a steel frame, but these come with a proper thread. So I've got that. I bring all my parts and pieces together. I bought my radiator, Honda Civic racing motor. I bought my nose cone out of Utah. Jack sold it to Ryan in Utah. So I've got that. So I'm slowly acquiring everything, and then I've got a mock up on the front end and put my Ed gave me a Spitfire rack and pinions, so I got to mount that, and I'll go through the whole car, get everything marked in place, measurements made, and if you look at my wall, if Jim shows you my wall of knowledge, it's all taped up to my door.
Well,
And of course, with my bad neck, I have to close the door to look at it. It's a sunny day, and then open it. You can see when I'm working on something, one thing, and I spot something I need to do. I grab my pen, I walk over, I look either on the steering or electrical or the engine, the body, or whatever. I make a quick note of it. Then I carry on with what I'm working on because I've learned with all my other hot rods.
Wow. Excuse me for jumping in here, guys. We're getting some serious crosstalk. And John Minion has jumped in here too, who is our show host. How are you doing, John?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry I'm a bit late. Yeah. I had it down to 7:30. We obviously went a little bit early, but that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, all right. We're getting a little bit of crosstalk over here. Are you hearing that?
I am as well. Yeah, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. A little bit echoey.
Okay.
But yeah.
I'm going to put my microphone off and just let you carry on the conversation with Steve and Mike then.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, just put yours on mute. I think that's where the feedback's coming from. But yeah, cool. Okay, I've got no sound. No sound now.
Do that. You work on 10 different things in a day, and you get 10% of 10 things that you never get any completed, right? So
we're all quite aware of that situation.
On which they feed, which rely on them both for pollinating the flowers.
Oh, there we go. Oh, down to here. Okay.
John, why don't you do this whole thing again? Say hi and take it from there. Go on,
That's what we're going to do. Yeah, he's over there. Yeah. Oh.
Say hi, John.
Oh, can't hear us. Hello, John.
Yeah,
hello, John.
Hiya. Yeah, I can hear you now. That's cool. Yeah.
Okay.
So tell us about your engine option. You've gone all Mazda, haven't you? Mazda route.
I bought a 1994 Mazda MX-5 donor car, and everything, the motor, tranny, rear end. I'm using everything off of that Mazda that I can. And
yeah,
then
and that's the six speed.
I don't know. I never got it out of the second gear when I tested it.
I know the later Mazdas were 6-speed, and then the later ones. Are you using the rear diff off the Mazda as well? Because the later ones had limited slip diff on as well.
Yeah, well, the differential in this is the one that's on the big frame, and it's got rubber mounts on it, and it kind of floats around in there.
Yeah,
I know. A friend of mine said that apparently the '94 model is the one that the manufacturer put all fixed everything. So it's the 1.8 liter motor, and I would assume, like you say, the 6-speed manual transmission, and then the differential limited slip and all that. So yeah, would make sense.
Yeah, that's the best one to go for. A lot of the Mazda boys, certainly on the MKs, they end up turboing them as well. Any thoughts on putting a turbo on? It's going to be quick. It's going to be quick as a 1.8. Normally aspirated anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But that's what I learned was use all the power. I built a Cobra kit car, a Shelby replica, and the same thing.
Yeah.
You use all your donors, but the reason I bought the donor and it was running was I know it works. I know guys have got into it and they think they're saving money, and they get told that the engine they're buying and the transmission's in mint shape and blah blah blah, and a year down the road and they put it together to go to start it, they find out it's seized up, there's nothing, it's junk, right? But this way I know it was running before I shut it down and tore it apart. Yeah. But yeah, I've been at the weld, and I come out here and paddle around.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't.
Yeah. So again,
Yeah, I know. We've got another kit car manufacturer called an X. We've got another kit car manufacturer in the UK called Exoset, which is all Mazda MX-5 base. You basically just take all the body off. You use the backbone chassis, put another chassis on top. But some of the guys were saying that they bought a second-hand MOT failure for about 600 quid, 600 UK pounds, and they actually sold all the parts off that they didn't need. You know, things like doors, windscreen, whatever, and they actually made money on the donor. So I guess you've done the same with your donor. I guess you've done the same with your donor. Just sell off all the bits you've got, and you get your money back. It's ridiculous.
well, the guy I bought it off, he calls himself Miata Man out here in Tuasa, the subdivision down the road. And what I told him is he gave me a much better price on it, because I told him you can have the doors, you have the trunk, but you can have everything body wise. I'll strip everything else off. So it kind of worked out. I got the car at a much better price, right? And I knew it was running. So.
Yeah. And are you're using the MX-5 seats there? Are they the MX-5 seats?
I don't. Just MX-5 is all I know.
Yeah.
I don't know about it. Yeah. And I know what I did on it is what Ed told me to do, and it was a good suggestion. I just pulled the whole subframe out of the Miata, and I lifted it up, and I fabricated all of the brackets and everything. So the back end of my car has the whole stock Miata rear subframe in it. Well, that saved nothing but time. I don't have to build control arms. Like Ed said, well, you're going to be covering it all up, so you're not seeing anything.
Absolutely.
That's what I was going to ask. We could take a look at the subframe, because I got a question for you.
Sure.
So you got the complete subframe here.
Yeah.
Now, they do say, from what I've been reading, that sometimes people put a reinforcing plate in here because these things are notched. So you have to break this baby right there.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I wouldn't be worried about that. Yeah, but it's all like you got to keep dealing with all this.
As temperatures rise.
Yeah, the beauty of this is what I'm doing, and I learned it from doing my kit cars and restoring my trucks and everything. This car will get put all together, exclusively bodywork, but everything will be all placed, bolted down, everything fab, and then I take everything out of it. Yeah, everything will come out of it. I'll turn my frame upside down, every sideways, and I will go back and I will check every one of my weld joints and make sure it's all %. Then I'll flop it back down, and then I can do put everything back into it, do all my paneling, my body work, that's what guys tell me after they get hot rod, and they say, my God, I had to take the car apart and put it back together 4 or 5 times. And that's all I said was, from the hot rod. That's what it's all about.
And the actual chassis that you built, the actual chassis you
How long did it take me to weld this? 3 weeks. It was like 4.5 months.
Well, in my case, I started pretty much the same way as Mike. Built a table to start working on, laid things out. Again, only 8 plywood, and I probably took about 6 weeks to 8 weeks to get the chassis where I actually started to drop the motor in, and then it was a case of working with the back axle, getting that in place, etc., etc. Unlike Mike, he's used a complete subframe for an independent rear suspension, whereas in my case it was live axle from Alfa Romeo, and I literally hacked off all of the old Alfa bits and pieces and welded on my own bracketry for the panel rods and shocks, etc. So I fabricated all of that myself on my build, which is typically the live axle, I believe, from what I've read on all of the other builds out on the internet. So unlike Mike, who's got the independent back end, mine was live. And I noticed that he's got his drive shaft. I also had to manufacture my drive shaft as the Alpha was in a two-piece section, and I had a local company, make me up a drive shaft, and very careful with the measurements to make sure everything is all lined up. But Mike's build is coming really nicely, and the layout is working pretty good. I mean, the fact that he's got everything all lined up in the right position, and it's a case now buttoning it up to get everything going, lined up, engine mounts, etc.
Yeah,
So,
lined up, engine mounts, etc.
How much room side to side is on yours?
Okay, well,
Mike?
I think when I measured Steve's, his was 42 inches across in the cockpit and the back end.
Yeah.
When I built mine, I measured mine and it's 44. So Chris actually in his book, he actually added a couple inches in, and Ed was telling me add a couple of inches or more into the width because of my shoulder size and sitting, and add four inches into the length. Well, I'm kind of thankful I didn't add the 4 inches on the width because it had already been added in by the fellow in the book. But I added 4 inches in the cockpit. But I'm like Steve, we're long in the leg and everything. So in actual fact, I think it'll work out. But I'm kind of glad I didn't, because if I had widened it the extra couple of inches, I would actually be rubbing on the tires of the subframe. So that was good. Leave it. Don't go any more than 44.
Yeah.
Don't go any more than 44.
And tell us about your rear wings. Did you roll these yourself?
Yeah, Princess Auto fenders meant for a trailer.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? Ed. he told, go to Princess Auto and buy that fenders for the trailer, and they're only like $70 each or something. Yeah.
I do believe that he's got a very similar set of fenders on his latest project.
Yeah. Well, he's built that one that's based on Spitfire. Be interesting. But yeah, the big issue, I guess, with this is, and I've already, with hot rods and a lady's car, I went through the specialty group here, the motor vehicle branch, to get these things registered. And of course, it's going to have to be registered, I'm sure, as a new build with the crews and the inspections and the whole bit. But I've dealt with them enough, and it's the old story. They're a government organization. They come up with a set of rules, but guess what? You can challenge it. Just go over to the North Shore and sit down with them, or even if you have to. What I can do, it's actually registered. I've got the 94 registered. So when this hits the road, it's going to be driving around as a 94. I'll just drive it over there and say, well, hey, here it is. What do we have to do to get it working? So I know that I read some articles about you guys in England and everything, and the guys with your, what do they call it? The MOT. Yeah. And they're always complaining of the problems. Well, that's why, again, you buy a donor car that's running. When you build your car and it's all built, get that registration transferred right away, and then go in and register it, put the plates on it, drive it around there. But be aware, if you have an accident, they more likely won't cover it. They'll give you a real hard time about it. But you can work all your bugs and everything out, and then go in and argue the case of, hey, it drives, it runs, it works. What do I have to do to now get it registered properly so I can insure it properly?
Going back to Ed Leach's experience with his build, the first one they did, which was his Lister, or Jaguar Special, as it has to be called, he had quite an uphill battle, but he's taken the lessons learned from that and used a Spitfire subframe for his current build. And it's going to be registered as a Spitfire because, as Mike was saying, it's all registered. It is documented as a road-going car. So, and in my case, my Alfa Romeo was a runner, which I bought, drove it home, drove it around for a while, and I've got all the registration papers as a 1982 Alfa Romeo Spider. And of course, all the running gear is now out of that and being used in my build. Just to add one thing quickly to what Mike was saying about his rear end at 44 inches, my build, I based around the Alfa Romeo back axle. And that meant I had to go to 42 inches, which does make it a fair bit narrower than what Mike's got. I would have preferred to go wider, but I wanted to keep all the running gear standard for Alfa Romeo, so everything works. Plus, not being an experienced builder, I decided to keep everything as standard as possible, and pretty much as Mike has done with his build, and using all the components from a Miata, meaning you know the tranny is going to bolt to the clutch, and the clutch to the motor, and the bell housing, and the back axle is going to rotate in the right direction, and everything's going to work for you. And it gives you then the spindles matching up the front and back for the brakes, etc. So
That's the way to go.
Yeah.
Guys, can I jump in? Getting back to when you got the Miata and you stripped it down to get the engine, the drivetrain, the rear differential, all those goodies. Is this rack
No,
out
rack-
of the Miata
that
as well?
rack, Ed Leach gave it to me. And
Ed Leach has been an amazing resource for knowledge and equipment, because my rack and pinion is also donated from Ed Leach, and it's also from a Spitfire. So he's been a great help to all of us, getting our builds going and inspiration.
So what I've said to these guys, I look at Ed Leach as if the Michelangelo of building cars. Me, I'm a metal butcher building cars. So.
No, Ed Leach does some amazing work, absolutely amazing. And
yeah, we're going to have to get back up there and have a look at your shed again, because I'm sure that the Stobolt Special looks considerably different.
Oh, yeah. I've been dealing with them for aluminum. We've got to get aluminum. We found a place to get sheets of aluminum, but there was an issue. We had to buy $1,000 worth. Well,
and that was one of the questions that.
Mic back on. Yeah, and that was one of the questions from the audience. Is the bodywork going to be aluminum sheet?
Yeah. Well, I'll put aluminum on the whole thing. Just and again, you use Ed's experience, right, and see what works. And what you can see. I mocked it up. I threw the seats in, but I just took some 3/4 inch plywood, threw it in the bottom just so I could see what it looks like. Yeah. But we'll get there. We'll go, sir.
Dumb question. Did you clean up the shed just for us?
I was out here for about 4 or 5 hours, putting things away and taking stuff for the motorhome and putting it in motor, because I got to get the motorhome on the road. Putting stuff in my. I dropped to get my space back. I dropped a 10-foot by 8-foot steel container in the front yard and put my Harley and put all of the surplus parts and pieces. So I just learned over the years with doing all the other stuff, right?
Well, what I like is the fact that you've got a perfectly organized garage.
Well, you know what happens? It depends on what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like I reorganized when I started this. I had to reorganize. That was when I realized I need a container, and I was tripping them. And of course, getting older, I'm a little busy most of the time. And I bent down and I did the little scooting across the floor and slammed my head into the welder and everything. And I went, okay, let's clean the shop up. Yeah.
So are you far away from Ed Leach? Are you far away from Ed Leach? You could always take the car around there and let him do the bodywork for you.
Yeah. Well, he offers to help and all that, but like I say, I don't want him to have to look at this stuff until it's finished, because he could critique it, and I might not like the results. Like I said, I'm a metal butcher, so, and he's the Michelangelo. So
as the old saying goes, don't ask me what I think of you, because you might not like the answer I'll give to you. But just going to all the mechanics that Mike has gone through with all Miata like this, it makes it so much more simpler. I have gone a little bit different. because I'm using an Alfa Romeo that had Bosch Jetronic fuel injection, and that had a huge plenum over the motor and a lot of piping and plumbing, which I didn't like. So now just managed to get myself organized as far as what injectors I'm going to use in a mechanical injector manifold from the speaker manifold for Alfa Romeo, which fits the same 2-liter motor. And I've now just nailed down which injectors I'm going to use, which a Bosch injector again, and probably going to something like a mega control unit for a coil pack and for triggering the injection. So that's where I differ slightly from going to straight Alpha components. So that should be interesting. But trying to run carburetors is quite difficult because the manifolds for spiders are unobtainium at the moment. You just can't get them. So, I mean, I could modify an original manifold to make it fit for carburetors, but I figured that I'll get more control with something like a Megasquirt CPU. That's down the road, but we're here to talk about Mike's builds.
That's pretty lit. It's just, you know, you stumble through and you learn. And yeah.
One of the things I found about
Well, as I was saying, one of the things I found about and talking to lots of builders around the world is that, you know, the Miata platform seems to be the way going forward because it's so hard to find something that you can actually draw upon that's repeatable. You know it's going to be there and it's going to work for you. It's just like there for people building, there's just not that many options.
Yeah. Well, because they start crushing all the old stuff, which you start crushing for the value, right? So suddenly all of the old cars that you could have used, they're all gone.
Yeah, and in the case of North America, we never got the abundance of Escorts and Cortinas and things like that that you have in the UK. Corolla is also a popular build with Toyota. That one works, and of course, I think he built his first Super 7 kit car. He used Nissan, Nissan, a 2-liter Nissan motor complete with the drivetrain and back axle. So that's obviously my case. The reason why I went to Alpha is because it's a rear-wheel drive, and it's just I happen to like Alfa Romeo, so I stumbled across the right donor at the right time.
Oh yeah, that's what it's about.
Yeah. On the wiring, are you going to be using the Mazda wiring loom, or are you going to go for a bespoke custom one?
Oh no, I like my past experience is the same. There are outfits out here that will do a wiring kit for you, and believe it or not, they can sell it to you cheaper than you can go and buy all the wire and everything. But that being said, the only thing I want to keep out of the Mazda is the computer and all of the leads that manage the engine. That's it. Other than that, I'll be rewiring the whole dash. And I'm kind of a proponent. With like Ed worked in the aviation industry for years, and all aviation use circuit breakers. And and you've got visual, you can see where it is. But in the automotive industry, they use fuses. And they hide the thing somewhere, and you spend half the day just trying to find out where the hell your fuse panel is. So I'm going to mount mine right on the dash in front of the passenger. And it's going to be visual. It's all going to be circuit breakers, and I'll wire that in, right? So.
Well, I was going to jump in here because my background is so far away from anything mechanical or electrical. Steve is mechanical, and he's just smiling. But we know that Ed Leach was in avionics, and in particular, his thing was electronics for avionics. And tell us, Mike, what is your background? Why is it that wiring does not scare you?
32 years with the telephone company, and just about every discipline that you can imagine, with running gen sets and generators and prime power sites and wiring everything. And then my last 13 years was 1990 through to 2003 with mobility, all wireless stuff. And so I'm very, very conversant with electrical, right?
I am terrible. My wiring skills, no chance.
There are, let me just say, there are those of us who, when we think about the idea of wires going from here
I
to
just don't. I just don't.
the computer and then being dispersed everywhere, it just scares the hell out of us.
Well, I think wasn't it Jaguar? I think I watched a documentary thing or whatever, and I think they said something like the new Jags coming out have something like 9 or 10 kilometers of wire in them, like back and forth, up and down and around everything. Because computers, every little thing's got to have a wire that goes to the computer, and I mean, you look at the wiring harness that came out of the Mazda, and I went, my God, it's just bundle after bundle.
My God, it's just bundle after bundle.
Well, that leads me into the next part of this conversation because, I've been chatting with so many people and we talk about make it lighter and simplify, right? That doesn't seem to be the direction that we're headed. We're definitely headed in a different direction. I mean, that's what's this is fairly simple in the big scale of things. And when I long for those good old days,
Well, I'll give you an example where we're going. My daughter and son-in-law work up in Fort McMurray in the oil patch for Suncor. And I was just up there, and my daughter just moved into the management and one of the managers in the autonomous driving system for the 400-ton Komatsu heavy haulers that they haul the oil with. So picture a 400-ton rig. The driver's sitting 21 feet in the air. They're going autonomous, no driver. So I'm up there, and they now these things, and they got a control center, and these big 400-ton, and when they're loaded, they take 400 ton. So you got 800 tons driving down these roads, and these things all have safety zones, and if you put into it, it'll shut down, and all the stuff that you have to go through. One of the stories that we had out here between Edmonton and Calgary is called Deerfoot Trail, long straight freeway. The RCMP started getting phone calls. When they went out, 2 young Asian fellas were in a TELUS. They both had the seats back, and they were both sound asleep doing 140 kilometers an hour down the Deerfoot Trail. And the cop to get beside. And then finally they woke up, but they got over and they gave them for what they were doing. But you know what? That's the way it's going autonomous. Yeah, they even admitted the only thing those cars just 5 years ago could do it, they recognize signs. But now apparently they do. So my daughter, her car, we're driving along, takes her hands off. If she looks away, the car starts to beep. She has to look back at the steering wheel. There's a special sensor. She comes up behind a car. The car itself turns the signal on, drives around, out, passes, signals back in, and she doesn't touch the steering or the gas or nothing.
That's why us guys like these things.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
Keep it simple. Keep it simple.
well, we do want to keep it simple, but I wonder, and this is why I'm segueing this particular direction, is like John and I were talking offline the other day, and we're talking about the future of kit cars and where the industry is heading. And it seems to me that going back to the Miata, it's a big skateboard, and you can take it all out that kids can do with that now. And it seems to be what they're interested in. But the idea of going to a shed like some old guy who's 75, going out there to bash away, that doesn't seem to be the direction of the kit car industry now.
But I understand.
We were also talking to Martin. Well, we've been talking to him following Martin Coghill, who's building an electric 7. And if you look at the wiring on that, he's running. I think was it 600 volts he's running, Jim. And each individual cell is 3.7 volts, and he's hand wiring that himself. I took one look at that and I thought, no chance. I've got absolutely no chance. I'll end up blowing myself up. But he's got various switches where he can isolate different parts of the battery. You know, so if he does get a shock or get something wrong, it won't kill him. But that is way, and he's wearing rubber gloves to wire this thing up with rubber boots. Way beyond my capabilities. But yeah.
But the ultimate, what I understand is that the ultimate, you build one of these, is to put the motor in, and the ultimate is to be able to do 100 miles an hour in it. So I like that because I've got a Harley out there, and I've done just over 100 miles an hour on it, and that's a thrill. These have got four wheels, so I figure, hey, 200 miles an hour, no problem, twice the speed. But I understand that, it's Robbo. That's what I like about it.
Yeah. Simplicity and motoring at its basic form, and that's true. As I say, real hot rods have 3 pedals.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's the big one. 3 pedals, that's what we need.
Oh, yeah.
One tree coming down to see.
Well, and the other thing was, there was a guy sent me, and I do look at it. He was asking a question about why this is curved like this. So I think you can see now why it is. It's more of a. It's a cosmetic.
It's a cosmetic.
I'm going to let you say that bit again. Can you just tell me that?
Yeah, this piece up here.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah.
The other fellow would question what are these? What are they? And I think what they are. They're there. One, they help brace, of course.
Cosmetic, and it finishes off nice. And of course,
Two is it's cosmetic and it finishes off nice.
Rather than coming in a hard angle like this. Because over here you put your scuttle, so you've got it over here. You know, you've got everything nicely rounded. Your back end's rounded. So once you finish it, and you're doing all your cosmetic body work, everything gets nicely rounded. And I think that's what that's all about.
Yeah. What a freak.
Yeah.
Well, you'll just get a shot of Jim here doing his thing. And thanks to Jim for setting everything up and keeping us all together.
Yeah.
And greatly appreciated, because without Jim, I probably would not have met Mike. Probably would have stumbled in somewhere along the line with the build. But yeah,
that's how it works. Everybody gets talking to each other, right?
Certainly.
Yeah. Well, I think the next time what we learn here is it's a good thing if we all have separate earbuds.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we'll do that next time.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it if we can come down there in the future and just have another.
Oh,
see
yeah,
what you're doing and how it's coming.
Yeah. Well, have you been over to your place yet?
Not recently.
Oh, but
Yeah, we'll definitely planning one.
Well, the ultimate will be when we can take yours, mine, and Steve's and park them over to park somewhere
I'm all for it.
and take pictures of and we're all driving them, right? That's the ultimate, driving these things.
Yeah, the only thing is, I mean, we think that Steve could actually fit in this baby. I'm not sure that you'd fit in mine.
Probably not. No. Originally, I wanted to buy a Lotus, a Caterham, an actual Caterham, and the importer into the United States at that time was in Boston, and I was living in Quebec, so I went over to go and see the builder or the importer, and they had about 6 or 7 sevens right there, Caterhams. Some were customers' cars, and 2 were for sale. I could not fit into any of them. And one was a severely modified one.
Your knees all scrunched?
I could not fit into it at all. And I put that idea out. And then, of course, I think I said in my interview when I chatted with Jim a while ago, was I got the book.
I got it. This is going to be an experiment. Jump in there.
Oh.
I'm just going to say, sit in there and see what you
Get in there. Have a seat.
You think you're in the English part. This is the right answer.
There we go.
Steve, your chassis, you've gone for a 442, yeah?
Yeah. Okay. Oh man, this is luxury.
Look at that.
Yeah, see, that's
You'd
why-
never fit do that in mine.
This is luxury.
See, and then like I beside you. And
it's going to go into the production. You can sell and buy it.
Get two big guys or something.
Okay, I'll give you back your phone so you guys can chat. There we go.
There's two peas in a pod here.
So see, for
Well,
what I should do is I have to go look at that.
No, that's so different than.
And so of course, once I mount the seats and everything gets
make
seats
some
all
brum
in.
brum noises. Brum brum.
Vroom, vroom, vroom.
It's a Flintstone car right now.
Yeah, 4 foot power.
He's Fred Flintstone, I'm Barney.
You get
Yeah, this is 4 foot power right now.
First, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. What is it? No, it's only a. I believe it's five, yeah.
It's kind of roomy though, Lena. I gotta say, it's roomy.
If I had the truck, I'd have the outright, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just imagine doing 200
Yeah.
miles.
It'll be a thrill. Oh, boy.
Of course, you'll do it once and it'll go on a trailer and it'll go out and you'll lose it. So but it'll be worth it.
Let's grab this phone, mate. Cheers.
Yeah. Deal.
Steve,
What stage are you in your car, John? What stage are you at on your car, John?
Steve, your chassis are
Oh, he's
442.
Bought, it's a bought, not built guy.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay.
Ooh. We're talking more, John.
There you go. Okay, well, good meeting you, John. Yeah, we'll have to. What's it do with other things?
John, I think that we've had a great little visit here. Why don't you wind this baby up and we will do the usual, and I'll say I will see you at 7 Spot. And you're supposed to say,
Yeah, thanks everybody. Be seeing you soon.
all right, cheers.
Cheers, John.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, lads.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, guys.